I'm Brad Meltzer.
I've spent my life collecting stories. The best include signs, symbols, and codes, secret meanings that are hidden in plain sight. Some have become the basis for my novels,
But I've only scratched the surface of what's out there.
and now,
History has given me the resources to investigate the rest. This is Decoded.
Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to formally welcome you to Barnes & Noble Union Square and the New York stop of Brad Meltzer's Rock the Stacks tour. Now, this latest novel is arguably Mr. Meltzer's most compelling and immediate work. Researched while working with the Department of Homeland Security and with the help of a former president, the Inner Circle finds a young archivist embroiled in a murderous conspiracy involving a priceless American artifact. Now, I will leave it to our esteemed guest to explain how this riveting story comes together. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Brad Meltzer.
And a couple of years ago, I got a phone call from the Department of Homeland Security, and they said, will you come in and brainstorm different ways that terrorists will attack the United States? And my first thought was, if they're calling me, we have bigger problems than anybody thinks, right? We are screwed, number one. And without, listen, I was honored to be a part of what's called the Red Cell program. They brought together what they labeled out-of-the-box thinkers, crazy people. And they used to give us, they'd say, here's the city you have to destroy. Here's what you have to do it with, and sometimes it'd be nothing and sometimes it'd be something. And they would put me with a Secret Service agent, with a chemist, and I would come up with my crazy way. And then the chemist would say, no, let's use this chemical, it'll dissipate less quickly in the air. And then the Secret Service guy would go, no, let's go in this way, it'll be much easier. And so we would destroy major cities in no time. And it's one of those days you go home terrified because you do see how easy it is to kill us all. And when I was there, what I was struck by more than anything was it was regular people that they were calling on. It was a truck driving guy. There was a guy who just did, all the basic things you see around you. Myself, just ordinary, normal people that they were calling in to do this. And I love that. And so I started looking through history to see where it started. It actually started with a man named George Washington. And George Washington started his own spy ring. And George Washington, we all know him as like, oh, he never told a lie, and he was all honest. That's great, but he was also the sneakiest bastard you ever met. And he, there's a famous quote that said, George Washington did not outfight us in the Revolutionary War, he outspied us. And the Coppa ring, he was so tired of watching all of his information get out there through the military members that he said, you know what, screw this. Give me regular people. Give me people no one will look at twice. That's who I want. And I'll take those people and no one will see them and they're going to be part of my Coppa ring. And no one, even Washington said, don't tell me their names. I don't even want to know who they are so no one can ever find them out. And that's how we started this ring. And I love this ring, right? And the more I found out about it, a guy wrote in invisible ink that's still used today by the CIA and the FBI version of it. And had code names. George Washington's code name was 7-Eleven. Which is like the worst code name of all time, right? Like the founder of our country, I'm like, what's his code? It's 7-Eleven. And what I did after that is I started looking at this world of this ring. It was amazing to me. And as I looked at this world, I said to my guy at Homeland Security, wouldn't it be cool if for a thriller that you actually took this ring that George Washington started and it was still around today? And the guy said to me, what makes you think it isn't? So what are you talking about? I said, it's George Washington's greatest success. He helped win the Revolutionary War with it. Nobody knew about it. Why would he ever disband it? And the crazy part is, when I recently told, I was talking 2 weeks ago with a guy from the CIA. There's like a top guy who had a major acronym name. And I told him, he said, what's your new book about? I said, oh, it's about what if the ring that George Washington started, the spy ring, still existed today? And he says to me, oh yeah, I hear people are still looking for them. And you realize in that moment, okay, one, history is really crazy, but two, I got a good idea for a book. And I was determined to write that book, and I started with that. I heard this famous story. As I started looking, I was like, I asked all the guys in Homeland Security, help me design this ring. If it existed today, show me what it would look like. And so they did just that with me, and we tried to figure out how does a president pass to another president that information. And I heard the story, famous story, that Ronald Reagan, in his last minutes in the White House, basically wrote this letter that said, don't let the turkeys get you down. And he drew a picture of a turkey, and he put it in the desk of the Oval Office. And when George Bush came into power, that's what he found on the desk. He left that note for George Bush. And when George Bush left power, he basically went back and wrote a letter to Clinton, who wrote his own letter to George W. Bush, who wrote his letter to Obama. It is the greatest tradition of the modern presidency. I love that tradition. And so I happened to have the email of George Bush, Sr., the dad. And I said to him, listen, I'm writing this book, and I just want to know, could you move information back and forth, president to president, in that letter? Well, would that be a good idea? And I got a quick response, and the response didn't say yes or no or anything. It just said, Brad, you need to have this. I don't know what this was, and I opened it up, and Bush had sent me the actual letter that he wrote secretly to Clinton. And he said, no one's ever seen this before, and you should have this. Any questions at all? And then I'll tell you some secrets. You're gonna let me get off easy, my brother. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know what you think of the greatest conspiracy theory. Was 9/11 an inside job?
Was 9/11 an inside job? Only in New York could you ask that question first. You know, I had this guy on the radio today during an interview, and he's just like, you know, some of the great moments in our lives with 9/11, I'm like, dude, stop talking. You know, like, and it's amazing when you have a television show, and first of all, I should tell you, I have a television show, right? And this show that we call Brad Meltzers Decoded, the greatest title of all time, is on Thursday nights on the History Channel. And what they do every week, for those who don't know, is, and shame on you, I hate you if you don't know, is they let us answer, or at least try to answer, some of the greatest mysteries throughout history. And what happens when you get a show like that on the air is they basically, your crazy mail goes way up. I get the best crazy mail of all time now. From people telling me the secrets of 9/11. It is also very clear to me that the one thing that America has the most of is proof that Abraham Lincoln is gay. And pictures of that. A lot of those pictures. Like, they can't even be physically possible when I look at them, but they have them. And everyone also has in America, believe it or not, pictures of Abraham Lincoln when he was young. That you can't possibly prove either, but there are a lot of them, and I get sent them every single day. Thank you very much. And things like, you know, is 9/11 a conspiracy? Anyone who watches the show knows that I'm pretty doubtful about this nonsense, right? People are like, oh, you're such a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, I'm not. I actually don't believe any of them. I don't think governments lie. People lie. That's who lies. And when it comes to things like that, I feel like you say stuff like that, you better have proof. Don't say crap like that unless you have proof. And to me, when we started the show, on the very first week of the show, the producer said to me, on TV shows like this, when you don't have facts, you play a lot of scary music. And no truer words had ever been spoken, right? And make no mistake, we have the best scary music ever, right? We have the greatest scary music, but what I like to do is have facts. And before I would ever do a show saying anything like that, show me the facts. As to whether we get a second season to be able to answer that question, that will depend on the History Channel. Russ, it's up to you, pal. No pressure. My relatives are all watching, so no pressure. Don't take it personally. No. But History Channel's here. They're checking. If you guys don't applaud at the end of every question, they're going to be sad. But the one thing. But obviously, we are having fun with the show. The answer to 9/11. It depends if we get a second season, and if we don't get a second season, I blame History Channel.